didn't cry that night. I wanted to. 13 years old, sitting at a dinner table, full of people who shared my blood, listening to them laugh at the one thing I had ever felt truly certain about. I wanted to fall apart completely. But I didn't. I just sat there, back straight, fork in hand, eyes down, while my dad wiped actual tears from his eyes. Not the sad kind, the laughing kind. My brother slapped the table like I'd done a stand-up routine. My uncle shook his head. The way adults do, when they've already decided a kid doesn't know anything worth knowing. The room was loud, but inside my chest, something went completely silent. Not broken, not defeated. Silent, the way a storm goes silent, right before it becomes something nobody is ready for. I looked down at my plate, took a slow breath, and somewhere in that silence, I made myself a promise. Not, I'll show them. Not, they'll regret this. Just one quiet, unshakable thought. Keep going. That was 12 years ago. We were all sitting around the dinner table that night. Dad, Mom, my older brother Marcus, Uncle Ray, and my cousin Derek, who had just gotten some entry-level government job and was acting like he'd won a Nobel Prize. It was just a regular Tuesday dinner. Nothing special, but something in me couldn't hold it in anymore. I want to be an entrepreneur, I said. The table went quiet for exactly 1 second. Then my dad laughed. Not a polite laugh, not a nervous chuckle. A deep, genuine, from the belly laugh, like I'd just told the funniest joke he'd heard all year. Marcus joined in immediately. Uncle Ray shook his head, smiling. My mom didn't laugh, but she gave me this look, this soft, pitying look that somehow hurt even more than the laughter. Boy, my dad said, catching his breath. You can't even keep your room clean. What business are you going to run? Everyone laughed again. I didn't say another word. The rest of that dinner, I just sat there, moving food around my plate, pretending it didn't cut me as deep as it did. But it did. God, it did. What nobody tells you about growing up as the dreamer, in a practical family, is that it's not one big moment that breaks you. It's 1,000 small ones. It's your dad changing the channel when Shark Tank comes on, because that stuff isn't for people like us. It's your brother telling his friends at Thanksgiving that you're still doing that little computer thing, and everyone nodding like it's cute. It's your mom leaving job listings on the kitchen counter. Without saying a word, it's Christmas after Christmas after Christmas. Sitting at that table, feeling like the only person in the room who can see something nobody else can, and slowly, painfully, starting to wonder if maybe you're just blind. I moved out at 21, $1,200 in my bank account, and a laptop that took 4 minutes to start up. My first 3 months alone were the kind of lonely that doesn't have a word for it. Not sad, not depressed. Just hollow. I'd wake up at 6 a.m. in a studio apartment so small, I could touch both walls if I stretched my arms out. Make coffee in a pot I bought at Goodwill for $3, and sit down to work before the sun came up. I failed my first business completely, lost every dollar I had put into it, plus money I had borrowed from a friend. I remember sitting on my bathroom floor at 2 a.m., the night I realized it was over, back against the cold wall, just staring at nothing, not crying. Just empty. I almost called my dad that night. Almost. My thumb actually hovered over his name in my phone. For a long moment, I put the phone down and went back to work. The ramen phase lasted 143 days. I know because I counted. Some people romanticize the struggle. I won't do that to you. It was miserable. There were weeks I seriously questioned my own sanity. Weeks where my family's voices were so loud in my head that I couldn't sleep. Get realistic. Nobody from here makes it. Who do you think you are? But somewhere in the middle of all that misery, something shifted. I stopped trying to prove them wrong, and I started trying to prove myself right. That small difference changed everything. 22. I landed my first real client, $800 a month. I remember hanging up the phone and just sitting in silence for a full minute. 23, 6 clients. First employee. 24, 6 figures. 25, 7 figures. I didn't tell my family any of it. Not one word, not one hint, complete silence. For 3 years, Then my grandmother called. Grandma Ruth, 73 years old. The woman who, when I was 13 and the whole table was laughing at me, had quietly squeezed my hand under the table and whispered, "Don't you let them put that fire out, baby." She didn't ask me to come home. She didn't negotiate. She just said, "I need to see your face at my table this Christmas. I'm not getting any younger, and I'm not asking twice." I booked my flight that same night, but I also made one other decision. I rented the Ferrari at 9 a.m. on Christmas Eve. Cherry red. I'm not a car guy. In my normal daily life, I drive a used SUV with 80,000 miles on it, but I didn't rent it to show off. I rented it for the 13-year-old version of me, who sat at that table with burning cheeks and white knuckles, just to prove to that kid that the silent promise he made was real. I pulled up to my grandmother's house at 6 p.m., lights glowing warm through the windows. I could see silhouettes moving inside. The whole family. The same room where 12 years ago the dream was just a joke. I sat in that car for 2 full minutes, heart actually pounding. I thought I'd feel powerful in that moment. Instead, I just felt human, nervous, like a kid again. I stepped out. My little cousin saw me through the window first. I watched his face go completely still. He disappeared. 15 seconds later, the front door opened. Marcus came out first, looked at the car, looked at me, opened his mouth, closed it, opened it again. My dad came out last. He walked down the porch steps, slowly, looked at me for a long moment, and I saw something on his face I had spent 12 years, quietly desperate to see. Respect. He extended his hand. "Merry Christmas, son." My throat tightened in a way I hadn't expected. I shook his hand, nodded, walked up those porch steps, and went straight to my grandmother, who grabbed my face in both her hands and looked at me like I was the most important thing she'd ever seen. "There he is," she whispered. "There's my boy." I held it together, barely. Nobody made a speech that night. Nobody apologized on their knees. This is real life, not a movie. But the room felt different. When I spoke, people leaned in. My uncle asked me genuine questions about business. Marcus pulled me aside after dessert, looked at the floor and said, "Man, I always knew you had it in you." I just smiled, because we both knew that wasn't true, and that was okay. Because I had believed in myself, enough for all of us. Here's what 12 years taught me. About being the one they doubt. The anger will come. Let it. The shame will come. Feel it. The loneliness will come. And it will stay longer than you think is survivable. But survive it anyway, because the people who laugh at your dreams in the beginning are not your enemies. They're just people who stopped dreaming before you did. Don't give up on yours. The Ferrari was nice, I won't lie. But the real moment, the one I'll carry forever, was an old woman, holding my face in her hands, in a warm kitchen, on Christmas Eve, whispering, "There's my boy," like she'd been waiting 12 years to say it. She had been. So had I. If you're in the middle of it right now, the doubt, the ramen, the bathroom floor at 2 a.m., just keep going. Your Christmas Eve is coming.